negative energies and negative entities actually exert influence on planet Earth. This is something that it's a little bit hard to wrap your mind around, something that kind of took me a really long time to realize and to start to see more clearly. But one thing I'm learning just by studying esoteric subjects and also by being in relationship with people who are very psychic and very knowledgeable about these subjects, you have to understand there are negative influences here on planet Earth. There's actual like dark energy. There are certain entities which are like non-physical consciousnesses, you could say, or non-physical energies, non-physical beings, I guess, or they can be like collections of energies. I'm still like, I don't fully understand the mechanics of demons and spirits and this kind of stuff, but I do know just in general, right? It's a general term. There are actual like negative entities and negative energies that influence planet Earth, and they influence certain people, right, to think a certain way and to be biased towards certain perspectives, to put forth certain theories and ideas. They influence people via greed. Demons and stuff, they will tempt people with money, with power, with status, with recognition, with sex, with billions of dollars and so forth. One thing I'm learning is that a lot of this is a really difficult one for a lot of people to stomach. So you're gonna have to buckle in for this one, okay? Buckle in, seatbelt, put your seatbelt on, ready? I'm challenging your open-mindedness a little bit here, okay? We're gonna learn a lot about this subject. Just open your mind to a new perspective. It's okay, right? It's all right. After the video, if you don't like it, you can throw it out. You know, you don't have to, it's okay. You know, it's the mark of an intelligent person to be able to entertain an idea without immediately accepting it. Okay, so you don't have to immediately accept what I'm saying. You can just entertain it. Maybe it's an interesting possibility. One side of the coin, one angle, one lens. Okay. A lot of so actually before I say my point, I'm gonna build it up. Okay, so firstly, let's do a little history lesson. Okay, so thousands of years ago, hundreds and I'm talking about like maybe the last 2,000 years, okay? A lot of society was essentially run by the church. It was run by religion, various kinds of religion. Christianity was a huge influence, still a huge influence. Also Islam, Judaism, right? And in the East, there'd be Buddhism and this sort of thing. So, excuse if there's like some wind noise. I know, hopefully it's not too bad, but I'm doing the best I can here. If it's really bad, I'll maybe edit it out or something. So the leaders of society in history were the church, right? Do you think that over the last 1,000 years, the church has been influenced by demons? It's kind of ironic because the church they say that they're the ones who are against the demons, right? But when you actually look at the actions of the church, burning people at the stake, capturing women that claim to have natural healing powers, right? Calling them witches, tying them up, throwing them off of a ship into the water, tying them to a chair and throwing them into the water so they drown. Someone like Galileo, who was just using a telescope, right? He was literally just using a telescope. He was just like looking at the sky, and he was like, hey guys, I think you might be wrong, because you guys are saying that there's only 7 celestial bodies, which planets. You guys are saying there's only 7 planets, but I'm looking here with my telescope and I'm counting 8. So, but you guys are saying 7, but I'm saying 8. So there's something fishy here, right? They literally called Galileo basically he was using a devil instrument, like the telescope. They demonized it. They called it like a demon instrument. And so forth. So in general, my greater point here is that the powers that be, whatever is the governing body of society, in the past it was the church, right? Today it's more so science, the scientific establishment. In some cases, they're influenced by negative forces and negative entities. Not all the time. There's actually a lot of positive that the church has done through the past as well. So let's look at that as well. In the past, the church has helped society in general move away from even more demonic activity, like human sacrifice, right? Like before Christianity became basically the dominant religion in the West, certain tribes would literally like sacrifice humans for many different purposes and reasons, sometimes to appease their gods, sometimes even to summon demons. It was thought in like certain pagan or tribal religions, you could like eat the flesh of a certain human. If you like eat a child's heart, you would essentially gain his energy, right? I don't encourage you do this, right? But oh my God, it smells very strongly of fragrance. One sec, I'm gonna take a pee break quickly. 1 second. Very strong fragrance smell. I'm gonna walk away from that. When people do their laundry, and it's like the whole like 30 yards around their house just like smells like their detergent. And those chemicals, the fragrances specifically, are toxic to breathe in. They have endocrine disrupting properties, which there's some studies that do show that. Yeah, they can feed viruses, which is medical medium info. Anyway, so I'm just gonna try my best to avoid that. I'm gonna walk maybe over here. I love this park. Smells like someone's smoking something nice. I might go ask them for a toke. All right, let's walk this way. So yeah, I don't encourage that you do this, but if you can imagine, there's a certain energy, there's a certain quality in like a child's blood. And like if like there's like, you're basically eating like pure God's energy. If you were to eat like a child's heart, especially if it's like freshly ripped from their chest. Again, not encouraging you do this. I don't encourage you go rip child's hearts out and eat them. But just speaking theoretically here, hypothetically, there's this like amazing energy that's not, amazing is, relative, right? Like but you could get really, really high by doing that. It would activate this like primal part of your brain, and you would just feel like pumped full of this like this energy, right? And this is the kind of stuff people would do in order to essentially summon demons. If so, we're going to talk a little bit about demon summoning and stuff. We're going to go more depth into that subject. in this video, also in other videos as well. So you can subscribe for more. This is something I've been studying for the last few years. Yeah, so if you wanted, so there's different astral realms, right? There's like the lower astral realms. There's the demon realms, which are extremely low. Then there's the lower astral realms. There's the mid astral, the upper astral, and then there's angel and heavenly realms, which are very high, which we're not really talking about in this video too much. So there's good books on my book list. I have a book list. It's like a free list of books. There's an esoteric section. You can get the link in the description. It's free. There's an esoteric section on my book list where I have some of my favorite books on the subject. I really like the Levels of Energy series by Frederick Dodson. Mainly Frederick Dodson is kind of my favorite writer on this subject. He's a very good, very smart person. You might know him because he wrote Parallel Universes of Self. It's a pretty famous, like, identity shifting manifestation kind of book. It's kind of how I found him, how most people found him. That book he wrote in 2006, it's going viral now, so people are like discovering him now. Yeah, so read it, listen to his audiobooks, read his books. I really like Levels of Heaven and Hell, Clearing Entities. It's all relevant to what we're talking about. Excuse the wind noise, guys. Yeah, so we're talking about summoning demons. Yeah, so these certain tribes and stuff, this is not something that it's like made up, is what I'm trying to say. There's still people who like engage in like demonic demon summonings and this kind of shit, you know, people who have sex with children, you know, we see with like the Epstein files, this kind of stuff. This guy literally had an island where they clearly were partaking in like summoning like entities from lower astral realms, right? There's good content in this from books like What Do You Know About Human Harvesting? It's another Fred Dodson book if you're interested. So people don't understand that, first of all, entities exist. There's different kinds of entities. There's lower ones, there's middle ones, right? And then there's higher ones. Right, example of like mid to higher entities would be like Abraham Hicks, right? The Abraham material, that would be like a mid to higher entity, which is pretty positive, has some good info, can be empowering, not perfect, not fully, you know, correct, but still pretty good. Then there's angelic beings, and there's extremely, extremely high entities which aren't necessarily channeled, and I don't really consider them entities. Angels are sort of different. They function very differently. They function very in a light sort of way based on synchronicity, like divine guidance. They sorry for the wind, guys. It's just like it's crazy today. Yeah, so we're not really talking about that too much. The angels, they're just kind of they're very light and fluid the way they function, and they're not really influencing you in a negative way at all. If anything, they're just guiding you. All right. That's a very strong cologne smell. Holy smokes. Guy's wearing cologne, and it's like, dude, calm down. Okay. Whew. Sorry, guys. I love this park here. Look how nice it is. Wow. Amazing park. I'm so happy to film here today. We're very lucky. Wow, 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 wow. I'm really happy right now. It's a really nice park. Okay. Okay, eating children's hearts. So, this is the kind of stuff that people do to like summon lower entities, lower astral entities. Okay, so in general, yeah, I kind of wanted to go into that subject a little more. Okay, well, let's go into that a little bit more. Yeah, why would someone want to do this? It's because the entities, they basically promise you power. So you feel very powerful when you sort of summon them. It's just a very low, twisted consciousness. You get kind of stuck in that. You can get an attachment, right? So an attachment is basically a certain pattern of thinking that kind of clings on to you. And then if you can't stop it, right, it can kind of cause you to like voraciously crave certain kinds of sex, or certain kinds of food. That like, you're eating McDonald's, every week, right? That's not healthy, and that's not even really normal, right? That's often like, there's a negative influence involved there. There's also physical factors involved. It's not only non-physical. There's physical factors involved. You could have a sodium deficiency, right, which is causing you to crave this salty food. You could have a glucose deficiency, and you could have certain kinds of gut bacteria, right, bad bacteria that kind of are craving this negative food, giving a crave. So it's like a physical parasite, not in the sense of a tapeworm or a hookworm or anything like that. I just mean like a sort of a bacteria kind of parasite that is literally like living in your body and feeding off of like the disgusting ingredients that are in that burger. So you have to have nuance when you think. It's not only like physical and it's not only non-physical, it's both. There's different factors. There's a lot of different varieties. I gotta zip up 1 second. It's chilly. Whew. So your level of consciousness is essentially what determines your susceptibility to being influenced by negative entities. So, like when a certain person is bullied at school, let's say a kid who's like bullied at school, maybe they're neglected by their parents, maybe they find certain ideological or radical Reddit threads or online internet forums. This sort of begins like a downward spiral of energy when you learn levels of energy. You're playing like really violent video games, not violent that are like a little violent, if you're playing like Spider-Man or something, or fighting crime or whatever, or there's a little bit of violence here and there. That's okay, right? But there's some games that are just like hyper violent where it's just like you're just like torturing people, and like it's just like it's just too much, like it's ew. um An example of that might be like Doom or something, like playing way too much of that. There's really nasty ones too. A lot of nasty, disgusting shit out there. You can get trapped in that, sucked in that. And then if you're chronically depressed, maybe you go to the doctor, now you're on antidepressants, right? That'll lower your energy frequency even more. You can get addicted to that. It's not the proper way to heal someone from depression. There's info if you do suffer with that. By the way, there's info from the medical medium info. We'll look into medical medium depression. You can read a book like Brain Saver. Those protocols will help you with your depression from the root. A lot of it's caused by a lot of different factors. Can be literally metals in your brain and stuff and so forth. Yeah, I do like to take a sort of physical point of view for depression. It's not only mental. It's not only like meditation and therapy and stuff. That can be very helpful, but I do like to also address the physical part of it as well, which is nutrient mineral imbalances and getting the metals out of your brain. It's important. Got to learn how to do that. Lemon water, celery juice, wild blueberries, cilantro, spirulina, barley grass juice powder. Give yourself those minerals, those nutrients, that glucose. Lower your fat intake. Start cleansing out those viruses by staying away from certain troublemaker foods like eggs and dairy and stuff. These are great ways to heal your chronic illnesses. Yeah, so sort of, it's actually kind of related what we're talking about today. But Yeah, so okay, so I just wanted to talk about how, yeah, one second. Whew. Mm. So first of all, being ignorant to this idea that like negative entities exist is it's just that it's ignorance. You can't pretend like there's not negative forces on Earth. Um, and I'm just speaking about this from almost like a scientific perspective, and I'm using that word scientific differently than the way most people use it. When I say scientific, I'm just saying like looking at reality to see like what's actually happening. But you can do this not only physically, you can also use your intuition as well. This is something that our modern scientific paradigm, which is very materialistic and reductionistic, meaning that it reduces all phenomena down to the physical components, which is so limited because reality itself is not only physical, it's also intertwined and interconnected with your consciousness. And our quantum physics literally shows that the observer actually interacts with and affects the object that's being observed. So by definition, even our quantum physics is actually showing that consciousness itself is actually intertwined and interconnected with physical reality, which leads us to a more advanced way of viewing reality, actually a more scientific way of viewing reality, which is actually more aligned with more cutting edge science, seeing that reality is, you could say, partially physical, right, but also partially non-physical. And that brings us to like the yin yang. Right, we have the yin and the yang, right? Physical, non-physical, but there's both. There's not just one. There's not just physical. So what science in its current formulation, what it is basically a system that studies the physical side of reality. And that's fine. And there's literally nothing wrong with that. The problem is when someone in their mind elevates science to think that it studies all of reality and then completely denies and removes the non-physical part. Just completely saying, oh, that doesn't even exist. Oh, spirituality, oh, that doesn't exist. Enlightenment, oh, that doesn't exist. Entities, spirits, oh, that doesn't exist. Psychic powers, psychic phenomena, telepathy, oh, that doesn't exist. Fortune telling or prophetic dreams and stuff, oh, that doesn't exist. Spiritual powers, that doesn't exist. Someone like medical medium who has a spiritual gift that allows him to have healing information that heals people of their chronic illnesses, that doesn't exist. That's not scientific because that's non-physical, Adam, and we know anything that's non-physical is not real, right? So what that is actually, that's not actually an accurate way of thinking at all. That's actually a very limited way of thinking. And when you study something, for example, like spiral dynamics, you learn about ego development, you learn about the psychological stages of human evolution, it's psychological growth. It's something very important to understand and learn. You have to try your best to learn and understand about spiral dynamics and ego development. Leo Gura has made amazing videos on this subject. And Leo Gura does a great job of speaking about this subject on actualize.org. So I recommend watching that spiral dynamics series on actualize.org. If you don't know what spiral dynamics is, that's going to help you with sort of organizing your mind in a way where you can see life from a bigger perspective, where you can actually see what Adam is saying. You can actually understand what's behind what I'm saying, so that you understand from a bigger picture and start to see like, oh, I get what Adam's saying. You starting to see what Adam is seeing. It's a pretty interesting perspective. Okay, and what I'm trying to say is actually more accurate. So more accurate meaning that when you're basically reducing reality only to its physical components and its physical parts, and you're divorced from anything that's non-physical. Oh, emotions? Oh, that's not scientific. Intuition? Oh, that's not scientific. Synchronicity? That's not scientific. Spirit guides? That's not scientific. Astrology? That's not scientific. Human design? That's not scientific. So the problem is that your science, right, claims to explain reality, right? But what I'm trying to say is that it's missing half the piece. It's missing half of the whole thing, more than half. So science is saying it's explaining reality, but since it's wedded to the materialistic and reductionistic paradigm because of its actual methods, right, are only materialistic and reductionistic and rationalistic, because science's methods are limited and its paradigm is limited, then its understanding must be limited, right? So that's all I'm saying, okay? So when Adam comes on the video and he says something that, is a little bit unscientific sounding, right? That doesn't mean you believe him instantly. I might be wrong. So that's another trap where now, because I've successfully deconstructed the scientific paradigm and understood it, that doesn't mean you just trust me, because now that leads to another epistemological trap where now, how do we even know what Adam is saying about demons is accurate or inaccurate? What if Adam successfully deconstructed the scientific paradigm, great. But now, does that mean that everything he says about medical medium or about spirits or entities is correct? No, it's not. I'm actually telling you, my knowledge on this subject is incomplete. So if I say something about how entities work or how demons work or etc., just take that with a grain of salt. Okay, I'm doing my own research. I'm doing the best I can. I'm in relationship with very knowledgeable people who I highly respect on this subject, who are very highly intuitive, and they're able to give me info directly from a very, what I recognize to be a very good quality source. So I'm doing my best to bring you the highest truth that I can bring you from my current standing, right? And that's the best I could do, and I can't do any better than that. And maybe next month or next year, I'll have an even better perspective, and I'll share that too, because that's what I do, okay? So negative entities in darkness, it affects Earth, okay? One example, like I was saying, was like with the church in the past, like the Spanish Inquisition, right? Where there was literally like a witch hunt going on, where like any woman who was like had any kind of positivity or like she was too beautiful, so she was a witch. You just like kill her, or like she uses plants to like heal her son. It's like, oh, she's a witch, killer, right? So that's demonic influence. That's darkness. That's not just there is an element of, it's a lower consciousness, like stage blue, right? So if you understand spiral dynamics, or is helpful. So yeah, there is that element that's like a psychological thing where you're like, your consciousness is so limited that you can't make sense of these kinds of things. It's like a classic case of stage blue demonizing stage orange and green. But on another level, there's also an element of like, it could be there's actual demonic influence. That what demons like to do is they basically like to stamp out the light. They want, especially women. This is why medical medium, for example, is like always talking about how our society fucking is like wants women to be sick and diseased and addicted to alcohol, to pharmaceuticals, antidepressants, to cannabis, to psychedelics, right? Our society wants women to be sick. Why? Because when women rise, when women are in their full power and they're loved and healed. So what is a woman? A woman, right? If we're looking at it from a spiritual perspective, if we have the masculine and the feminine, right? So the woman is the embodiment of the feminine, right? What is the feminine? The feminine represents the actual physical forms of existence. So if the masculine is the non-physical in the sense that it's like the potentiality, which is like the unmanifested, you could say the feminine is like the manifested. Now that is a very rudimentary sort of way of breaking it up. They're not broken up like that, right? It's like they're intertwined, right? It's like the yin yang, right? There's a little dot of the black that's in the white, and there's a little dot of the white that's in the black. So they're interconnected. You can't separate them. Okay, but I'm saying just if in general, right, you could, sorry, I keep checking my camera. It's like a nervous tick that I have. I'm going to try to call myself out on this. I don't know why I keep doing this. Okay, my apologies for that. Sorry for the wind as well. Anyways, yeah, feminine and masculine, they are, we'll go this way. Maybe the wind is like a little less. The woman is the embodiment of the actual forms of reality. So if you want your reality to be beautiful, take care of the women. Have you heard that saying, happy wife, happy life? Right? That's actually a metaphysical statement. When you take care of the feminine, when you take care of your body, when you take care of your body becomes beautiful. It becomes powerful. It becomes energized. It becomes conscious. It becomes awake. It becomes full of light. When your eyes are healthy, your whole world becomes full of light. So as a demon, right, my job as a demon, because remember from my first video that I made about entities that's called self-doubt equals negative entities, we're talking about we're playing this game, right? So the demon's job is to stamp out the light. This is critical, okay? So imagine we're playing this like metaphysical game where like the demon's job is to just like prevent us from having the maximum amount of consciousness, light, understanding, wisdom, beauty, abundance, truth, goodness, health, vibrance, passion, love, etc. Right? That is the job of the darkness. And they do a great job. And the way they do their job is often by influencing your belief systems with falsehood. That's just not true. And this is kind of leading us to the point of the video. One example of this is like a demon of darkness, right, might influence a certain doctor or a certain, researcher, right, to only look down a perspective that is demonically influenced. So for example, believing that eating only eggs and meat and that kind of, eating, everyone needs more eggs and meat. That's how the species is going to be healthier, right? So that's demon consciousness. I know it hurts to say. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to point it out. Thinking the whole species of humans, which are frugivore, we're like, you can say like our body systems are clearly not evolved to eat only eggs and meat, and it's clearly not the healthiest food option for us. Clearly fruits, veggies, leafy greens, wild foods. These are clearly the healthier food options, right? Not chickens, eggs, and cow flesh, right? If you think that's what you're evolved to eat, you're kind of behaving like a demon. You're like an unconscious animal. You're not really thinking. That doesn't really make any sense for many other reasons I've discussed there. We have evolutionary qualities that clearly are designed to favor fruit. We have our eyesight favor certain like oranges, reds, yellows. Our hens are not hunting hens. In order for us to hunt, we literally need to like create tools in order to kill animals, right? So that's not like the most natural thing to do. What would be more natural would be for like picking fruit that's ripe off of trees. Our eyesight allows us to distinguish when it's ripe. Our eyes are literally evolved to like distinguish when food is ripe. That's how our color, we have very advanced eyes as a species. Also, our intestinal tract, our teeth, our saliva is designed to digest glucose. Or our teeth, this is not for killing cows, it's for eating bananas, right? You got to get that. So when these doctors and stuff are coming on their talk shows and whatever, and they're like, oh, and then here's what I'm trying to say why we did this whole thing is because they'll use science. So I'm trying the whole thesis of this video that we built up to is that darkness can influence science. This is so critical, you understand. Recently, I made a little like live stream thing. It was called Psychedelics Aren't Healthy? ? It's like a recent live stream that I did. Where there's just one example where I showed you guys there's a study that was showing that psychedelics increase certain markers in the brain that show an increase in neuroplasticity. Okay? And the reason why I picked this study specifically is because I was sort of speaking against psychedelics, showing that they could be injurious for your brain health, and for your whole body. Actually, they're not as healthy as they're made out to be. And there's people in the comments, right, that are like, Adam, how could you say that psychedelics could potentially be injurious for your health? What? Fuck you, Adam. Like in this way of like you're speaking nonsense, right? There's actual studies that prove that psychedelics reduce inflammation, that psychedelics increase neuroplasticity and neurogenesis and so forth, right? So I took it upon myself to look at these studies, right? One of them I found had a clear conflict of interest statement on it that showed that the study was partially funded and conducted by someone who is the co-founder of a company called Delix Therapeutics, Inc. And that company's job is to essentially patent and manufacture pills and that kind of stuff, pills mainly, to sell them. Then pills that it contains psychedelic compounds, like maybe like a pharmaceutical basically, that contains a tiny amount of psilocybin with the attempt of like, using it as a way to like, treat someone's like depression, for example. By the way, you can't treat depression by microdosing psilocybin. This is a side point. That's not how it works. And if you think that's how it works, you will be proven wrong as time goes on. Because even if you say, so now we're talking about science, right? I think I have to pee. 1 second. Adam, this study shows that psychedelics cure depression. This study shows that psychedelics increase neuroplasticity. What I'm trying to tell you is that the studies that you're showing me, they have a massive profit incentive to create studies that specifically are skewed, that is thumb on the scale science, meaning that the science is funded with a $10 million investment or a $20 million investment to hire the technicians, to invent the technology that's required to create the parameters of the experiment, to hire participants, to, rent lab space. It's very expensive in order to conduct a scientific study, right? So why would someone put down 10 million to study psychedelics? Is it because they love humanity? That could be in some cases. I think so. We're not painting with black and white strokes here. There's some gray area. Remember, there's some white in the black and there's a little bit of black in the white, right? You gotta understand that. So yeah, there are some studies that, actually are like with positive intentions trying to study the potential benefits and maybe harms of psychedelics. And I think that's a real thing that's happening. But then there's also a huge portion of these studies that are funded by companies like Delix Therapeutics, for example, which are trying to sell pills that make them billions of dollars. They don't give a fuck about if this actually treats and cures depression. They don't care if psychedelics actually cause neurogenesis in a way that's actually good for a human, and not only causing neurogenesis because it's actually damaging the brain, which is why the brain has to now activate those certain markers that show that it's trying to rebuild its nerves and its neurons. So, oh look, when this person takes psychedelics, the markers that shows their brain is trying to rebuild neurons go off. So that means psychedelics are good for you. No. So you have to watch the conclusion. If someone takes psychedelics and then their brain starts rebuilding neurons, what does that mean? Dumb fuck. Who fucking comments on my videos with this shit? Like, oh, psychedelics cause neurogenesis. Really? Are you sure? Maybe they do. Why do they cause neurogenesis? Is it because Adam was right the whole time that potentially they actually, poisonous plants actually are injurious for your brain? If you take ayahuasca, which is literally a poisonous plant that tastes like shit because it literally deters your consumption. Same with psilocybin mushrooms. They're literally, neurotoxic, literally shutting off parts of your brain so that you don't eat them as much. I'm not trying to paint with black and white strokes here. Yeah, I'm sure many people can have life-changing experiences with psilocybin mushrooms. I have, okay? I've made videos about it. Many people have watched my videos about it. So we're not painting with black and white strokes here, but you do need to keep in mind psychedelics in some cases, right? And these cases are going to be more frequent, are damaging people's brains and causing triggers of certain chronic illnesses, causing people's symptoms to worsen, or triggering symptoms that weren't there before that all of a sudden become triggered. Like certain people, they will have ayahuasca and trigger certain kinds of PTSD or your irritable bowel syndrome and so forth. Okay. What I'm trying to say, the thesis of the video, darkness influences science. I'm gonna lick the fucking camera right now. Do you get that or not? Darkness influences science. You have to be more skeptical of something just because there's a study. What does that mean? What's the influence of the study? Why is there a study? Do you ever think about that? Oh, there's a study. Why? Why is there a study? Who's banking on that study to come out well in their favor? Who profits if this study comes out in this way? People talk to me about science. Adam, you don't care about science, do you? You're not a scientific thinker like me with my 95-inch cock because I'm such a good scientific thinker. Buddy, I'm not against science. I like science is cool. You got to know I've been liking science ever since I was a kid. I was studying astronomy, botany. I've literally been reading science books. I'm like a fucking science addict. I love science. You understand? But even more than I love science is I love humans to be healthy, and I also love science that is not biased by profit incentives, which is the actual state of the union that our current culture is heavily influenced by, which I'm bringing light to. I'm pointing that out. Now, I'm not telling you to distrust all science. I'm saying you have to activate your autonomous thinking, where when you see a study, you have to spend a few hours digging into the study, the influences. You have to, so this is what I do. Sometimes I'll look at studies and I'll look, wow, there's like conflicts of interest. There's inconclusive evidence, like certain protein studies. For example, I've made hour-long videos. Protein, this push for protein where everyone thinks they need 100 grams of protein a day in order to build muscle, all this. This is a fantastic example of darkness influencing human consciousness to eat foods which actually don't promote increased light in their body and in their mind and in their soul. If the human beings, so I'll give you a great example. There's a video I made recently. It's called Life is Not Meant to Be Easy. And then some guy whose name is Dominate Dom, his name's literally Dominate, Dom. It's so funny. It's like it clearly like demonically influenced. You can look at the comment he left on my video, which was a link to a YouTube short. Okay, there's a link in the description. Click on the video, where it's basically some sort of scientist of some kind, basically saying that you can't get enough protein from vegetables and fruits. You need eggs and meat. And it's just the science. That's just the science, Adam. That's just the science. You need eggs and meat. That's just the... So it's not about what is the science. It's about which science. Is it good science or is it demon science? By demon science, I mean who's influencing the science? Who caused that science to be done? Is that science done from a place of greed, from unconsciousness, from ignorance, from closed-mindedness, small picture thinking, where companies don't care about the influence that their psychedelic pharmaceutical is going to have on the mass populace? Do you think they're 100% sure that their pills are not going to cause adverse health effects on the masses, addiction, and so forth? You don't think people are going to get addicted to psychedelic pharmaceuticals? Do you think these companies think like that? Do you think they're holistic, systemic thinkers? Do you think they think about the whole? Or do you think they think about their whole bank account? They think about sticking their whole dick in your ass. Sorry, I had to do something like that. That was critical. That's why we're on Adam's YouTube channel. We need these highbrow jokes. Okay, we got to mix in the lowbrow with the highbrow a little bit. Maybe, potentially, maybe not. Maybe that was childish. It's all good. I know some of you guys like that stuff. See what I mean? So there's people, they debate with me, right? Adam, Adam, you care about medical medium info? Oh, that's so like unscientific of you. Really? Because the last time I checked, science in its modern medicine right now has zero answers for every single chronic illness that exists. Zero answers. No cures for eczema, IBS, Crohn's, Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, depression, anxiety, any kind of skin problem like vitiligo or psoriasis, tooth decay, random hair loss, inflammation. First of all, people talk about inflammation. Someone commented on my video, Adam, psychedelics have been proven to be anti-inflammatory. Yeah, my fucking ass. What are you talking about? I've literally had psychedelic trips where my hands inflame. And my friends have had psychedelic trips where their hands inflame. And I'm sure there's many people on earth who have had psychedelic trips where they've literally experienced inflamed parts of their body. So you're saying psychedelics are so someone who's saying, you know, let's say a study comes out, psychedelics are anti-inflammatory. You got to ask yourself the question, does that paradigm, so I'm not just talking about that study, I'm talking about the bigger picture. What's behind that study? Who is doing the study? Do you think that entire paradigm of science has good quality understanding of what even causes inflammation to begin with? Do you think modern medicine and modern science even knows what causes inflammation? Do you think that? Do you think they know the cause of inflammation? It's a hot button word right now. It's a lot of people, everyone's talking about it. My Zia, my aunt, was telling me about inflammation. As, you know, because she watched something on TV, or, you know, inflammation is like, it's the new, you know, the new trendy word. Oh, this causes inflammation. Oh, eat this anti-inflammatory food. Oh, this, you know, this egg, you know, eggs are anti-inflammatory. Right? Eggs are like the most inflammatory food you can eat. So if you got to understand what inflammation is literally caused by, first of all, is when you have this is medical medium, and so medical medium is the only source of information that actually has a clear quality and comprehensive model of health and understanding of health that actually clearly describes what causes every single chronic illness with actual healing protocols that actually work and heal it if you apply them properly. It's the thing with the medical medium info is that since it's a lot of info and there's a lot of different tools in there, there's not one diet. There's like so many tools he has. You can drink chaga tea. You can drink nettle leaf tea. You can have celery juice. You can have raw honey. There's like hundreds of different tools all in that medical medium info. So when someone says, oh, I did the medical medium and it didn't work. What does that mean, you did the medical medium and it didn't work? There's 100 different tools. Did you try every single supplement he recommended? Did you try zinc sulfate extract? Did you try B12? That's methylcobalamin. Did you only do 16 ounces of celery juice? Did you try increasing to 32? Right? So I'm saying that it's the most advanced model, and it just is. You can read it. So people sometimes in my comments are like, Adam, I don't believe you. You know, you're so ideological, Adam. You're so attached to medical medium. No, see, this is the thing. People, when I'm up here saying medical medium is the most advanced health info, you don't see the 10 years of work that I did. Changing my diet, reading other diets, I was vegan for a year. I was paleo for like 3 or 4 years. I've done carnivore for a few months. I've done keto. I've done many different diets and subscribed to many different diet philosophies before I found the medical medium, which you can just tell is extremely advanced. Okay. People say, oh, Adam, you just believe everything he says is gospel? That's kind of a bigger point that I don't want to get into in this video. It's not that I believe everything he says is gospel. It's just that he just has such a good track record of just knowing how reality works that when he says something, I take it seriously. I don't necessarily like automatically believe it, right? but I definitely take it very seriously when he says something because he's very correct about every subject that is health related, and I don't fully, you got to really look. I've actually had many cases where I was doubting medical medium. He talks about like chemtrails, for example. I was against this for like years. My girlfriend kept telling me, Adam, chemtrails. I was like, no, it's not real. It doesn't exist. Only recently did I look deeper and I realized that there's certain companies and government agencies as well that have like buckets full of like toxic waste that's just sitting in warehouses that they don't know what to do with this toxic waste. Some of it is from like 50 years ago. Some of it's from 100 years ago, from World War I, World War II. They have just these like warehouses of toxic waste from industrial waste matter. In order to get rid of it, sometimes they literally fly over the populace and like release it into the atmosphere. All right, one second, guys. And medical mediums said specifically, the people who do this know what they're doing. They know they're releasing toxic, disgusting shit into the air for everyone to breathe. And they absolutely do not have the best intentions of humanity in mind. The whole thesis of this video, there are people that are negatively influenced on planet Earth who don't fucking care about your health. They do not care about the health of the masses. They don't care if they're on someone's talk show saying, oh, there's this scientific study that shows every single person just needs to eat more eggs and meat, and then they're going to be healthier. Let's not even mention apples or leafy greens or bananas or oranges or spirulina or, let's not even try that. Let's not even be open-minded to that. Let's not even take that seriously. Talk about the science, right? So what I was saying, even like protein science is extremely demonically influenced. You need to understand about protein, for example. Protein is that, it's like the keystone that the whole health model is based on. If you take out the protein belief, the whole model collapses because now there's no reason for people to stuff themselves with eggs and cheese and meat. Those are some of the main foods that are actually causing your sicknesses. Now, some meats don't feed viruses. Some meats are healthy on medical medium info. So, for example, like grass-fed beef is actually recognizes not feeding any viruses and not really furthering any sort of chronic illness. But if you are really sick, it is recommended you take out all meats because the fat content of the meat will make it more difficult for your body to cleanse. So if you're on an extreme cleanse because you're very sick, it's not recommended to eat any meat. But if you're not that sick, then you can eat grass-fed beef. You can have certain kinds of chicken, like organic chicken. Certain kinds of fish, like trout or salmon, are recognized, or sardines, they're okay on medical medium info. They don't feed viruses. So again, you got to understand, medical medium is not an ideology. You can be, if you're interested in carnivore, okay, you can actually do carnivore and still be interested in medical medium and take some medical medium info and add it to your carnivore diet. You can have lemon water, for example. You can have celery juice, for example, and still have your steak. If you like steak, okay, go ahead. Medical medium does not recommend doing eggs, right? Because they're the number one food that feeds viruses. There's this interesting connection I realized the other day that it's said in the Bible and in certain, it's just kind of known if you ever smell sulfur. Sometimes that's like a sign of like a demonic presence. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before. Certain smells can signify and indicate demonic presence, which is also why fragrances, these toxic fragrances, are so popular. Everyone needs to be all smelled up nowadays. Everyone needs 9 different colognes and deodorants and shampoos. You have like 25 different fragrances on your body right now. All of them are actually toxic for your liver, and they disrupt your endocrine system, and they feed viruses in your body. You can heavily worsen your chronic illness symptoms. There's some people who are allergic to fragrances because of this. Some people, if you go near them and your hair is all shampooed up and they smell your shampoo, they can have a negative reaction where it just throws them off for the entire day. As I'm walking, my lips taste like chemicals because of it's just all in the air. So what, wow, I totally lost my train of thought. I do this thing where I don't finish my thoughts. I just like hop on to the next one because I get so excited by the next thought that I forget to finish the first one. Yeah, so the whole health paradigm, the keystone is based on this protein law. If you start poking at the protein idea, you start questioning the protein idea, first of all, watch people's reactions. You start to see the demons coming out. Atom protein. All of a sudden, everyone's a fucking scientific expert. The second we start poking at protein, everyone's a scientist. All of a sudden. You know, people will never study science at all. They'll be super interested, open-minded to your spiritual ideas, interested in meditation. They'll be interested in affirmations and you know, astrology. They're super, you know, sort of like, you know, open-minded people, right? The second you poke at the protein idea, they got a lab coat on, they got goggles, all of a sudden they have a microscope. Yo, where'd you get that microscope from? Buddy, I'm a fucking scientist. Didn't you know the second you fucking poke at that protein idea, everyone's a scientist? Instantly. Everyone just, they transform into a scientist. Immediately. Because it's a defense mechanism. You're literally poking a sensitive subject. Do you ever wonder, hey man, why are you so sensitive about protein? Why do you think protein is God? It's like I'm questioning your religion. Sorry, man, I didn't mean to question your religion. What's wrong? See, it's engineered in such a way where you think if you don't get enough protein, you're going to be weak. It's like the perfect demon belief. If I was a demon, first of all, you got to understand, as a demon, we need the whole populace to be addicted to eggs, meat, cheese, and just eating so much fat. Because as we learn from medical medium information, the more fat you eat, the harder it is for your body to cleanse, the harder it is for your liver to cleanse. Your liver has to work really hard to break down fats. It has to store fats. When your liver is busy digesting fats, it can't process chemicals from the fragrances, chemicals from the industrial pollutants, from the chemtrails. It can't process chemicals from the water, right? The tap water, you know, has chlorine in it and fucking like metals, and it's disgusting, right? Your liver can't process all of those chemicals if it's also being blasted with fats, because you think you need more protein because you're a bodybuilder, right? So this affects women first. Women are like the canary in the coal mine. You know, the chronic illness rates in women are higher than in men. That's a statistic. You can find that somewhere. I don't know where. The reason why women are more susceptible to chronic illnesses than men is because women's immune systems take breaks every moon cycle. So every menstrual cycle, the woman's immune system becomes weaker because it requires part of the immune system to deal with that whole shedding process. It's very stressful on the body. or even if a woman gets pregnant, there's like half of her immune system is going to help the baby. So women's immune systems biologically are weaker and more sensitive than men's immune systems, where all day, every day, we're at 100% capacity, more or less, right? Depending on, I'm sure if we do like a cold plunge or something, our immune system tanks and goes down. You think, no, Adam, it goes up. No, it doesn't. It fucking goes down. Okay, that's why when you are exposed to cold, sometimes it's said you get more likely to get sick. Anyways, my point. Women are more susceptible to chronic illness. That's why some women, when they start this bodybuilding train, I know certain women in my personal life, they start on the bodybuilding train, and all of a sudden they're on Instagram, they're looking at all these girls with fatter asses than them, and they're thinking, okay, fuck, I want a fat ass. How do I get a fat ass? Okay, I got to eat eggs every breakfast. If you eat eggs every breakfast, you will get sick. I actually, I promise you, take it as my promise, Adam Miceli's promise to you. If you eat eggs every breakfast and you're a woman, or if you're a man, I guarantee you, you will get sick and you will have chronic illnesses, and you won't know why. And you won't even realize, you'll think it's some like other thing. I have someone I know who just randomly developed a severe allergy to certain fruits and vegetables. She's eating eggs every breakfast. I have another woman that I know who developed PCOS, which is it's like ovarian cysts, extremely painful and horrible, and it's the worst thing ever. It's like the most horrible thing ever. Eggs every breakfast, because she's trying to be fit. So every human wants to look good. Every human wants to be fit and healthy. So what you do as a demon is you just say, okay, if you want to be fit and healthy, eat only eggs and meat and fish, because that's like the only food that like makes you strong. So we've coupled, because most fat foods are also protein foods. So when you think, oh, nuts, that's a protein food. Soy, that's a protein food. Meat, that's a protein food. Eggs, that's a protein food. Fish, that's a protein food. You're not realizing all those foods are actually fat foods. They have all this fat in them. What Medical Medium has said, and that you can learn about in my other videos about protein. I have like an hour-long video only about protein, just going into the logic, only the logic of why you don't eat as much protein as you think you do, and why there's literally fucking demons in the scientific establishment, just corruption, just like pure corruption, like disgusting, like nasty, ugly, gross corruption in the scientific establishment that is so biased towards convincing the entire society that protein is God. Protein is the Lord Jesus Christ that we should all bow down to. It's all you need to think about. If you go like knock on these doors, if you go knock on people's doors, you ask them about protein, the odds are they'll tell you protein is the fucking God and you need more, especially if you're trying to be strong. If you're trying to build muscle, which everyone wants to fucking build muscle to some degree. Of course, we all want to have muscles. No one wants to not have muscles, right? Everyone wants to have some muscles. So everyone's convinced in order to like look good and be healthy, you just need lots of protein. Because even from a money perspective, think about all the cows, all the milk. How would milk sell unless people are like obsessed with protein? The sales would tank by hundreds of billions of dollars. You know how much hundreds of billions of dollars is? Would be lost if the entire populace wasn't thoroughly conditioned to believe that protein is God. But Adam, what about the science? You can't tell me about muscle protein synthesis. I think that's a topic for another day. Get to like go into the actual science of that. I've actually already done a live stream. There's some sort of live stream that I've done on my channel where I actually showed protein studies that are funded by protein supplement companies, literally funding protein studies. A lot of protein studies are done in a sort of conflict of interest, and many of the ones that don't have any conflict of interest don't come out conclusive that increasing protein intake actually increases muscle growth. And I've gone into the logic of that ad nauseum. I'm actually tired of talking about it, so we're not going to talk about that. I have another video. Go check that out. All right. So big picture view. Let's zoom out again. Okay, see, we zoom in on one thing and then we zoom out again. So the big picture view is that, sorry, the big picture view. On Earth, there's actually like ideas out there that are like funded by demons. There's literally beliefs out there that are just literally inaccurate and unaligned from love and truth and beauty and goodness. And these ideas, sometimes they're like viruses where you can like spread them, you can catch them, you don't know how to get rid of them. They're, it's like bacteria in your gut. You know, you can have a certain bacteria. This is kind of messed up, but we learned from medical medium information that bacteria and viruses, they feed on certain foods. So like you can have a strain of streptococcus that feeds on eggs, for example. It feeds on dairy. If you have sex with someone or hook up with someone who has that strain of strep and you don't have it, but then you hook up with someone who has that strain of strep and you exchange bodily fluids and you get their strep, you can literally start craving eggs or craving dairy or craving a specific kind of junk food that strep, that bacteria, that virus was addicted to. So that's a very interesting kind of idea. And so what I'm trying to say is that when you study the medical medium info, you're basically equipping your mind with the most explanatory view. So like the view that he has explains the most phenomena. It's like the hypothesis that basically covers the most data. So if you want to speak scientifically, right, because you know you're such a scientific thinker that you are, right? I know the people who aren't anyways, you get what I'm saying. Since you're such a scientific thinker, what I'm talking about is that the medical medium is the hypothesis that explains the most data. So if you want to explain chronic illness, medical medium, there you go. And I'm talking about every chronic illness. I'm talking about cancer. I'm talking about Alzheimer's. I'm talking about HIV. I'm talking about AIDS. I'm talking about all that. Okay? That shit is explained. It's understood and it's healed already. But the demons want you to think that that is a blasphemous statement. Adam just said a blasphemous statement. Don't believe Adam. No. Adam's not scientific. No. Don't believe him. He didn't spend 10 years studying every fucking psychological and philosophical and scientific and fucking perspective on planet Earth. Adam doesn't know, obviously. Adam is not perfect. We already know that. I don't know everything, and I already said that in the video, that I'm still upgrading my perspective every single day. Tomorrow, I'll be smarter than I am today. Okay? So I don't know everything. I make mistakes. I could be wrong. Sometimes I say things wrong. Okay? But the demons want you to think that it's like blasphemous, that there could be a guy, such as medical medium, that just like has the answer to cancer. Oh no, Adam, that's impossible, because if we had the answer to cancer, all the scientists would already be studying medical medium. If medical medium was so good, why isn't the science already studying it? First of all, there's actually a lot of doctors that do study medical medium and actually use medical medium in their practice. There's doctors who write the forewords of medical medium's books. Medical medium has worked alongside many doctors. So there actually are a lot of doctors and medical practitioners who do use medical medium info. And there's actually a lot of practitioners who poach medical medium info and don't give him any credit at all, who use his info, but they like pass it off as their own info because it's the only stuff that actually works. So they'll take like something like lemon water or something, but then they'll like twist it and like tell people to do it in like the incorrect way, like having hot lemon water, which doesn't really work because we're adding apple cider vinegar to it as well, which doesn't work either. That's not good. So they'll take some medical medium info and then they'll like twist it into some random nonsense like demons like to do. Then they'll pass it off and they'll then spread it, 100 Instagram. They'll pay 100 Instagram influencers to now make content on it. All right. So watch this. I'm gonna present to you a possibility. I want to see if you could potentially open your mind up to this possibility. So there's let's just say for sake of this thought experiment, there's two options, okay? One option is that Adam is ideological, closed-minded, and there's a blue jay up in that tree. One second, I gotta show you the blue jay. There he is. See if you can see him. One sec. There he is. Oh, that's a beautiful sound. Do you hear that? Oh. Oh my fucking God. Bro, what is this camera? What, are we gonna see? Bro, what? Sorry for the wind, guys. We're looking at a blue jay's ass right now. There you go. Wow. Look at that guy. What a champion. Okay. It's a nice blue jay. What was that sound? I'm gonna try to like. Love that one. So yeah, there's let's say there's two different options, okay? There he is. I love that blue jay. So you could say Adam is closed-minded and ideological and is unable to think scientifically and is just attached to medical medium and he just worships him as God, right? Which, first of all, you have to understand, medical medium is like a modern day prophet, and I know it sucks to say that, and I know it makes me look like a fucking sycophant or like some sort of like cult follower. But if I'm speaking accurately, when you read medical medium info, it's kind of like you're reading the modern day Bible. I know that hurts. I know you don't like that one. That one sucks. I know you don't like that one. That one is going to take 10 years to land. That one's not going to land. Yeah, you don't like that one. When you're reading, so like, for example, the Quran, right? That was channeled by Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, right? But medical medium info is channeled as well. So you could say, in a certain sense, that medical medium info is like the Quran, but for your health. It's coming from God. He's a prophet. But that doesn't mean I like let him fuck my girlfriend. That doesn't mean, he's not like, I'm not worshiping him like a cult leader. There's no cult elements. I'm not paying him money every month. He has a couple books. You just buy his books and that's it. You don't have to like, buy his courses. He's not like siphoning me of my money and my health. I'm not worshiping. You understand the difference? Do you know what a cult actually is? Like how to distinguish when something's actually a cult or when it's not. If someone's giving all his info away for free and he only has books is the only way you can pay him, a couple books that are actually good quality books. They have recipes, they're like nice, good, printed on good paper and stuff. They're like fairly priced books as just a way to disseminate the info. You call that a cult? That's a shitty cult. medical medium wanted to make a cult, he could do a much better job. Now, I'm not denying there actually are people out there who believe in medical medium in this like zealous kind of way, which is sort of stage blue ideological. So I actually acknowledge that. There actually are medical medium followers who I don't fuck with because they follow it in this sort of like stage blue zealous ideological way where they literally worship him as God. And it's like really kind of weird and scary. And I don't really like those people, to be honest. Then there's people like Adam, or like there's other people as well who actually think about the medical medium. There's actually a medical medium Discord. It's like an unofficial Discord. There's some pretty smart people on there. You can, if you have questions, you can go there and you can find it and you can go there. If you have a question, you can ask in the comments. I'll send you the link. You can like go ask people questions there. That's probably like a good support system if you want some help with your stuff. If you have like chronic illness or you just need help implementing protocols, there's people who help you for free in there. Yeah, so what I was saying is that medical medium info is like very advanced. It's very cutting edge. And so now the question is, but Adam, why are you so like attached to, like, why are you so like this one perspective? Why are you just like worshiping this one perspective? And it's the only perspective that you think of when it comes to health. That's not open-minded. That's not multi-perspectival. That's ideological. That's closed-minded. So you can actually take open-mindedness, which I've already exemplified by studying hundreds of perspectives from literally hundreds of different sources, probably thousands of different sources from many different paradigms and ways of viewing the world. But you got to understand, at the end of the day, you have to kind of go with the perspective that is the highest consciousness, most advanced, most explanatory, and most effective. You have to pick the perspective that's the best after you study the hundreds of perspectives, then you got to actually have an opinion. It's like, you know, I went on the hero's journey, okay? I went through the trials and the tribulations and the battles, and I studied I defeated all the dungeon guardians and stuff. And now I'm coming back and I'm trying to give you the Holy Grail. Here it is. Here's the Holy Grail. You're like, oh no, Adam, that's not the Holy Grail. You're too close-minded. Oh, that's only one Holy Grail. You're not multi-perspectival enough. There's multiple grails. No, there's one. It's right here. Here it is. The secret to eternal life. If you want to fucking be healthy, medical medium literally said the secret to eternal life is taking care of your liver. Do you understand? Let's see if I can hang from this with one hand. One sec. Can I do it with one hand? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. There we go. We take care of your liver. One more time, ready? Take care of your fucking liver, buddy. What are you doing? Come on. My baby cousins like watching my videos, but unfortunately, I always end up swearing, and I don't know why. Take care of your liver. It's good for you. Take care of your liver. That's how you live till 130 years old. Medical medium literally said you can live to like 120. You can live to 130. You just got to take care of your goddamn liver because that's what keeps you alive. It filters all the toxins, all the poisons, especially in our society where the whole society is just made of toxins and poisons. You're going to need to have some sort of protocol or some sort of measure to take to sort of counteract that. What, you think you could just shower in chemicals? And drink chemicals and breathe chemicals all day and eat chemicals, food with pesticides and shit? You think you could just shower, eat, and breathe chemicals all day and not have some sort of adverse health effect? You don't think you need to like take certain protocols, not to mention the chemicals. There's viruses, bro. The viruses nowadays are literally lab engineered. They are advanced. You like COVID? Oh, it came off of a bat. Came off a bat, guys. A bat in China. No, it absolutely was not specifically engineered in a laboratory to be as harmful for humans as possible. I'm telling you, there's evilness out there, guys. There's darkness. There's evilness. Oh, we'll lock down all society. I don't think the lockdown was specifically caused by demons, but the fucking virus itself was. Oh, Adam, that's not scientific. Okay. When you're trying to doubt this sort of info that I'm sharing, basically first of all, you didn't read the books or do the diet, so you're the one who's not a scientific thinker because you didn't actually try the hypothesis, do the experiment. It worked. I literally healed my chronic illnesses. Okay, that's one case. Okay, there's also millions of cases you can look at. There's evidence of there's one or two anecdotal accounts. Okay, maybe that was a lucky try. There's literally millions of anecdotal accounts. Medical medium's been doing this for 50 years. This isn't like it's not like a small thing. It's like a movement. Do you understand? It's a movement where people aren't paid. I've never been paid by medical medium info. Do you understand? No one pays me for this besides the people who want coaching from me, but that's my own thing that I made myself. Anyways, so let's close up the video. Society is influenced by dark forces. So let's finish our thought experiment. So option 1, Adam is closed-minded and ideological, and he didn't actually read all those books on his book list, and he didn't actually spend 10 years contemplating and thinking about the nature of existence. That's option 1, right? That's possible. Even though there's videos of me 8 years ago explaining how to study reality from multiple perspectives and to be open-minded. There's literally videos of me 8 years ago explaining how to be open-minded and study different perspectives. So, so there's that possibility that Adam doesn't know how to be open-minded and study different perspectives. That's option 1. Then there's option 2. Adam might be onto something. This is just a potential. It could not be true. It could not be true. We don't know. Maybe Adam's not onto anything. Maybe Adam's wrong. Maybe. Maybe Adam is wrong. Maybe Adam is actually just right. What if Adam's just right and he's just ahead of his time? What if you're actually just getting cutting edge info right here? That's like really ahead of its time. And the reason why people are sort of closed-minded or resistant to it is because it's ahead of its time. And it's different than the status quo. Adam, what you're saying is different from the status quo. Yeah, that's how cutting edge info works. That's how evolution works. You understand? The whole point of evolution is that some guy has to be on the cutting edge of the info gathering. He has to go and gather all the cutting edge info, which I've done, gather the cutting edge info and share it with the tribe. That's what I do. You understand? So if you're interested in that, subscribe to my channel. I love you so much. Eat healthy. If you want my help, if you want me to help you become the best version of yourself, I do coaching for people. If you want to have me in your corner as like your buddy, you want to text me your questions and shit and I'll answer you, then consider coaching. Send me an email. I have my email in the description. I'll help you with everything that you want relating to the subjects that I talk about in my videos. And spiritual growth, that kind of stuff, meditation, I've only been on 20, anyways. Yeah, thanks for listening. More videos on the way. Society is influenced by darkness, and we're going to talk about how that works. And you got to start by healing your body in order to move into the light. Last thing, just like, again, if I was a demon, first thing I would corrupt is the health field. So that's why the health field is such a twisted field, because that's where the demons want to strike. In the sense of, like, if I was trying to make like society toxic and sad and dark, the first thing I would do is I would pollute the health field as much as possible so that humans don't even know how to be healthy at all. Because if you can be healthy, if you can be physically healthy, then you can be clear, you can be conscious, you can be awake, you can be alive, you can be powerful, you can be your best version of yourself, you can be passionate, you can fulfill your life purpose, you can help people. You understand? You can be wise, you can be intelligent, you can have wisdom, you can have inspiration, you can have love. If your body's healthy, that's the start. You understand? That's the foundation of Maslow's hierarchy. You get that, right? Food? You understand that, right? So I think I've sort of said what I needed to say. Yeah, keep searching for truth, keep being open-minded, keep checking in with your heart to see what your motivations are. It's okay to take wrong turns. That's fine. Just remember to always come back to the light that's in your heart, the love. Reality can be good. It can be healthy. It's not necessarily a fight against the demons. It's just about awareness. We're not fighting anything. There's no fight that's happening. It's just awareness. Be aware. Focus on your own love. What do you love? What's making you excited? What's making you happy? What's pumping you up? What's inspiring you? What makes you feel like $1,000,000? What makes you feel powerful? What makes you feel enlightened in that sense, right? Enlightened. What makes you feel full of light? Focus on that. Move into that. Focus on be in that. Focus on that wish fulfilled, right? Focus on what raises your vibration. Focus on what raises your frequency. Focus on what interests you. Focus on what you're obsessed with, what you love. Obsessed in a positive way with, right? What are you obsessed with in a positive sense that you love it? Like I love chess, for example. Checkmate, bitch. Check fucking mate. You can do it. You can actually be the best version of yourself. That's why you're here. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be easy. It's kind of fun that it's a little hard. You kind of like that secretly. Kind of like that it's a little bit hard. There's challenges. But yeah, I encourage you if you want to make really life transforming things that transform the world, think from a place of abundance, not from a place of lack. What does that mean? So there's stuff you can do, for example, like thinking from the wish fulfilled. Thinking from, sorry, the wind is a little crazy. Maybe I'll just go this way. Thinking from the wish fulfilled means if you already had what you want, so we're just gonna like change the subject of the video, okay? We were talking about that other thing, now we're just gonna talk about this thing, okay? A new video inside this video, okay? There you go, that's what you get for staying. Thanks for watching. If you want to have more likelihood of being the person you want to be and creating the reality you want to create, you have to learn how to use your mind. You have to visualize in your imagination, in your mind, what is that feeling place of already having the exact thing that I want? Let's say it's a house or it's a partner. You have to put your mind in that place of already having it and watch how that changes. your body posture. Watch how that changes your breathing. Watch how that changes your excitement, your focus. When you're in the reality you want to have, visualize it, feel it. You're already there. Use your mind, visualize it, feel it. It doesn't have to be a crazy visualization. It can be vague. That's fine. Just get into the feeling. Oh, I already have that beautiful house that I want. Oh, I already have that money situation that I want. Oh, I already have that relationship that I want, that partner, those opportunities. I already have the life I want. I already have it. It's already done. I am who I want to be. I am. When you realize creation is already finished, meaning you already have what you want, watch how that affects how you are, who you are, how you show up, how you talk, what you talk about, how you make your music. Okay, I already have all the money I want. I already have all the life situations that I want. Now I can just relax. Okay, now that I'm relaxed, what music am I going to make for fun? You see how it changes? So what this does is you get that? You get it. I already know that you get it. This is the difference between an abundance mindset and a lack mindset. Your mind is creative, okay? Your mind is the creator, actually. Your mind is God. So you can say who you are. When you say, I am already who I want to be, I am this, I am that, I am my final self, or my best self, my ideal self, when I am that already, and I'm excited about it, and I love it, and it makes me feel really good, then stay there. That's your energy. Be in that energy. Create from that place. Okay. You can do it. I believe in you. Thanks so much for listening. I'll catch you in the next one. I'll be back soon. Okay, peace. Love you. Mwah.